Lumosphere English. Hey, English learners, and welcome back to Lumosphere English. I'm Emma.
And I'm Alex. We're thrilled to have you join us today for another fascinating discussion that I think resonates with so many people.
Absolutely, Alex. Today's topic is one that sparks a lot of debate and personal reflection. Is it better to stay up late or wake up early? Are you an early bird or a night owl, Alex?
Oh, Emma, without a shadow of a doubt, I am a night owl through and through. Always have been, always will be, I suspect. The thought of waking up before the sun feels like a cruel punishment.
A cruel punishment? That's quite strong. I, on the other hand, am definitely an early bird. There's something so peaceful and productive about those early morning hours when the world is still quiet.
See, peaceful and productive sounds lovely in theory, but for me, those hours are reserved for deep, undisturbed sleep. My brain doesn't really kick into gear until late morning, around 10 or 11 a.m. Before that, I'm just a walking zombie.
A walking zombie? I can picture it. But seriously, what do you find appealing about staying up late? Is it the quiet, the lack of interruptions, or just when your creative juices start flowing?
It's a combination of all those things, really. The house is quiet, no emails are pinging, no one is expecting a quick response. It's prime time for focused work or creative projects. I find I can concentrate much better and get into a flow state without the constant demands of the daytime.
I completely get the appeal of fewer distractions. My early mornings offer a similar kind of solitude. I love having that uninterrupted block of time to plan my day, work on personal projects, or even just enjoy a cup of coffee in silence before the hustle and bustle begins.
And that's where we differ. My early mornings are for hitting snooze multiple times. If I try to force myself to wake up early, I feel groggy and irritable for hours. It completely throws off my whole day. I'd rather embrace my natural rhythm and be productive when I feel most alert.
That's a fair point. It does seem counterproductive to fight your natural inclination if it means you're less effective overall. But do you ever feel like you're missing out on something? Like the beautiful sunrise or that early morning energy that some people seem to thrive on?
Occasionally, I admit, especially when I see those idyllic social media posts of people jogging at dawn or having a gourmet breakfast before 7 a.m. I sometimes think, wow, look at all they've accomplished before I've even opened my eyes. But then I remember the deep satisfaction of finishing a complex task at 2 a.m., and I feel perfectly content with my choices.
So it's a trade-off. You sacrifice the sunrise for the quiet night. I guess it boils down to what works best for your personal productivity and well-being. But what about the practicalities? Do you ever struggle with maintaining a social life or adhering to a typical 9-to-5 work schedule as a night owl?
Oh, absolutely. That's the biggest challenge. Most social events and professional meetings are geared towards early birds. I often have to push myself to attend early morning appointments, and I'm definitely not at my sharpest. It requires a lot of conscious effort to adapt to a world that seems designed for morning people.
I can imagine. It must be a constant negotiation. Whereas for me, the evening social events can sometimes cut into my precious sleep, which then impacts my early morning routine. If I stay up too late, I feel the consequences immediately the next day. It's a delicate balance, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that's an important aspect of this discussion. It's not just about personal preference, but also about how our individual chronotypes, our natural inclination to sleep at a certain time, interact with societal expectations. Society, generally speaking, rewards early rising.
That's a great point, Alex. The early bird catches the worm mentality is deeply ingrained in many cultures. There's often a perceived moral superiority associated with waking up early, as if it signifies discipline and ambition, while staying up late is sometimes seen as lazy or disorganized.
Exactly. And that perception can be quite frustrating for night owls. We're not necessarily lazy. Our peak productivity simply occurs at different hours. I've often felt judged or misunderstood because my most effective work happens when others are winding down.
I suppose it's similar to how some people are naturally more energetic in the mornings, while others are evening people. For me, my energy levels start to dip significantly in the late afternoon. I can push through, but my focus isn't as sharp as it is at 7 a.m.
See, for me, 7 a.m. is still essentially the middle of the night. My brain is still in a fog. My best analytical thinking, problem solving, and creative bursts tend to happen from late evening until the early hours of the morning. That's when I feel most alive and capable.
It sounds like it's less about choice and more about optimizing your natural biological clock. If you know your peak performance times, it makes sense to schedule your most demanding tasks during those windows, regardless of whether they're early morning or late night.
Precisely. Forcing a night owl to be an early bird, or vice versa, can lead to chronic sleep deprivation, reduced cognitive function, and even negative health outcomes. It's about working with your body, not against it.
I've read a lot about chronotypes, and it's fascinating how much our genes influence whether we're larks or owls. It's not just a habit you can easily change. While you can adjust your sleep schedule to some extent, your fundamental chronotype tends to remain.
And that's why the question, is it better to stay up late or wake up early, is inherently flawed. It implies there's a universal better option, when in reality it's highly individual. The better option is the one that aligns with your biology and allows you to function optimally.
I agree. The goal should be to find a schedule that maximizes your energy, focus, and overall well-being, rather than trying to fit into a mold that doesn't suit you. But what about those situations where you don't have a choice? Say, a job requires you to be an early bird, but you're a natural night owl.
That's a tough one, and it's a reality for many people. In those cases, it becomes a matter of damage control and strategic planning. You might need to be extra diligent about sleep hygiene on your days off, or find ways to incorporate short power naps into your day to compensate.
So, for a night owl forced to wake early, perhaps the strategy would be to get to bed earlier, even if it feels unnatural, and make sure those early waking hours are dedicated to tasks that don't require peak creative genius, but rather routine work that can be done while still half asleep.
Exactly. Prioritize sleep above all else. And don't expect yourself to be solving complex algorithms at 6 a.m. if your brain isn't wired for it. Save the heavy lifting for your natural peak hours, if your schedule allows for any flexibility.
And for an early bird like me, if I have an evening event, I try to schedule a lighter morning the next day, or accept that I might need a slightly longer nap or an earlier bedtime to reset. It's all about acknowledging your limits and making adjustments.
It sounds like self-awareness is key, regardless of your chronotype. Understanding when you're most effective and when you need to rest is crucial for sustainable productivity and avoiding burnout.
Absolutely. And it's not just about work, it's about personal life too. For instance, I love a quiet morning run. It clears my head and sets a positive tone for the day. If I tried to run in the evening, I'd feel sluggish and probably skip it altogether.
And I find my evenings are perfect for winding down with a good book or some quiet hobby. Trying to do that at 7 a.m. would just feel forced. The quiet of the night, for me, is almost meditative. It allows for a deeper level of introspection and relaxation.
That's interesting. So your winding down period is when most early birds are already asleep. It highlights how different our internal clocks can be. Do you ever worry about the health implications of a later sleep schedule, especially if it means sacrificing total hours of sleep?
That's a valid concern and something I definitely keep an eye on. The key isn't necessarily when you sleep, but how much quality sleep you get. As a night owl, I ensure I still get my 7 to 8 hours, even if that means sleeping until 9 or 10 a.m. The danger is when night owls try to force themselves into an early bird schedule without shifting their bedtime earlier, leading to chronic sleep deprivation.
That makes perfect sense. It's the total duration and quality of sleep that matters most, rather than the specific hours on the clock. So if you're a night owl and you can structure your life to allow for later mornings, you're not necessarily doing any harm to your health, provided you get enough rest.
Precisely. The problem arises when work or social commitments consistently prevent a night owl from getting their full sleep, or when an early bird is constantly pushed to stay up late. That's when you start seeing the negative effects on mood, concentration, and long-term health.
So the advice isn't wake up early or stay up late, but rather listen to your body and protect your sleep. It's about being intentional with your sleep schedule, whatever that schedule may be.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the idea that there's no one-size-fits-all answer. For some, the early morning hours are a golden opportunity for focused work and personal growth. For others, the quiet solitude of the late night is where they truly shine.
I think it's also about acceptance. Accepting your natural rhythm and then building a lifestyle around it as much as possible, rather than constantly fighting it. That fight can be exhausting in itself.
It absolutely can. And it's a battle you're probably not going to win in the long run. Our chronotypes are pretty robust. You can push them, but they tend to snap back to their natural state when given the chance.
So, for our listeners who might be struggling with this, perhaps the first step is to observe their own energy patterns. When do they feel most alert? When do they naturally feel sleepy? And then try to adjust their daily schedule to align more closely with those observations.
That's excellent advice, Emma. A period of self-observation can be incredibly insightful. Keep a sleep journal. Note down when you feel most productive, when you crash, and when you naturally feel like going to bed and waking up.
And don't feel guilty if your natural rhythm doesn't match the ideal portrayed on social media or in popular self-help books. What works for a high-performing CEO who wakes at 4 a.m. might be detrimental to a creative artist who thrives at midnight.
Exactly. The most important thing is your personal well-being and effectiveness. If you're consistently feeling exhausted, irritable, or unproductive, your sleep schedule might be out of alignment with your body's needs.
It's a continuous process of learning and adapting, isn't it? Our needs can change over time, too. What worked for us in our 20s might not work in our 30s or 40s.
Absolutely. Life stages, job demands, family responsibilities, all these can influence our sleep patterns and energy levels. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. You have to regularly check in with yourself.
So let's consider a hypothetical. What if someone genuinely wants to shift their schedule? A night owl who wants to experience those early mornings, or an early bird who needs to adapt to later shifts? Are there any gentle ways to encourage a shift without completely disrupting everything?
That's a great question. Gradual adjustments are key. For a night owl trying to become an early bird, it's not about jumping from a 2 a.m. bedtime to a 9 p.m. bedtime overnight. It's about shifting by 15-30 minutes every few days.
So, gradually moving your bedtime earlier and your wake-up time earlier by small increments until you reach your desired schedule. That sounds much less jarring than a sudden, drastic change.
Precisely. And equally important is consistency, even on weekends. If you spend your weekdays trying to be an early bird and then revert to your night owl tendencies on Saturday and Sunday, you're essentially giving yourself jet lag every week.
Ah, social jet lag. I've heard that term. It's when your social schedule, particularly on weekends, conflicts with your body's natural clock, creating symptoms similar to actual jet lag.
Exactly. It's a real phenomenon, and it can have significant negative health impacts over time. So if you're trying to shift,
consistency is paramount.
And for an early bird who needs to adapt to later hours, perhaps for social reasons or a new job, the same gradual shift would apply, but in the opposite direction, and making sure they don't undersleep just because they're staying up later.
Absolutely. The temptation for an early bird is to just stay up later but still wake up at their usual early time, leading to significant sleep debt. They need to consciously push their wake-up time later, too, if possible.
So, for example, if I'm normally asleep by 10 p.m. and awake by 6 a.m., and I need to stay up until midnight, I should also try to sleep until 8 a.m. the next day rather than sticking to 6 a.m.?
Ideally, yes. Or at least allow for some extra buffer time. It's all about ensuring that total sleep duration remains adequate, even if the timing shifts.
This really brings to light the complexity of sleep and daily rhythms. It's not a simple case of one being universally superior. It's about finding harmony with your own body.
Couldn't agree more. And I think it's important to differentiate between genuine preference and habits that might not be serving us. Sometimes a night owl might just have poor sleep hygiene, staying up late scrolling on their phone, rather than genuinely being more productive.
That's a crucial distinction. There's a difference between a productive night owl who's deeply focused on creative work and someone who's just procrastinating or passively consuming media late into the night.
Exactly. The latter is not embracing your chronotype. It's just poor time management, and often leads to exhaustion, regardless of when you sleep. So self-assessment needs to be honest. Are you genuinely productive or just avoiding the next day?
Good point. Sometimes we label ourselves to justify certain behaviors. Oh, I'm a night owl. Might be an excuse for not tackling something difficult during the day.
And the same could apply to early birds. Someone might wake up at 5 a.m., but then spend 2 hours aimlessly browsing the internet, rather than using that productive time effectively. The ritual of waking up early doesn't automatically equate to productivity.
That's very true. The virtue signal of waking up early can sometimes hide a lack of actual output. It's about what you do with the time, not just when you get it.
Absolutely. So for our listeners, the takeaway isn't to force yourself into a certain mold, but to understand your natural inclinations, protect your sleep, and use your most alert hours for your most important tasks.
And be kind to yourself in the process. Don't beat yourself up if you're not a 5 a.m. club member or if you occasionally struggle with an early morning meeting. It's about making sustainable choices.
Sustainable and self-compassionate. Those are excellent guiding principles. It's not a competition. It's about optimizing your life, not someone else's.
Indeed. And it's an ongoing journey. There will be days when you nail your schedule and feel fantastic, and days when it all goes a bit haywire. The key is to keep coming back to those principles.
That's right. Every day is a new opportunity to make better choices for your sleep and energy, regardless of whether the sun is rising or setting when you feel your best.
So, to wrap up this part of our discussion, it seems the better approach is highly personalized. It involves self-awareness, respecting your chronotype, prioritizing sleep quality and duration, and then optimizing your schedule around your peak productivity times.
And let's not forget the importance of flexibility. Life happens. Sometimes you have to stay up late or have to wake up early. The ability to adapt and then reset is also a crucial skill.
Absolutely. Resilience in managing your sleep schedule is just as important as adhering to an ideal one. Well, Alex, this has been a really insightful conversation. I feel like we've covered so many angles.
We really have, Emma. From personal preferences to biological rhythms, societal pressures, and practical strategies. It's clear there's no simple answer, but rather a spectrum of optimal approaches.
And I hope our listeners feel empowered to explore their own rhythms and make choices that truly benefit their well-being and productivity.
Me too. It's about finding your personal sweet spot, not chasing someone else's.
Goodbye, and see you in the next video.